This is one I just want to hear. I think this is one that if you would have told me a couple years ago that so and so would get fired about a conservative comment, I would have thought you're crazy.
Well, a lot of things have happened in the last week or two, haven't they? And I am seeing so much aberrant behavior online that I can't even describe it. From young people who don't know anything about anything, who are just, starting to flap their wings and they don't know anything, and yet they're all mouthing off about this thing or another thing or whatever. And I was hearing Charlie Kirk is racist. He's anti-trans and gay. He's anti-Israel. Well, every single one of them has been disproven on videos of him that I saw, and people who have seen other videos who are in there rooting for his family and rooting for Turning Point. So a lot of gibberish has been going on. But Jimmy Kimmel on late night, and before him, Colbert on late night, and they're looking at the ratings very carefully. Now, you have to go back in time before I talk about this. You have to go back in time and realize what has happened. ABC lost, I think it was, I'm probably wrong on the number, 16 million, I think it was, dollars to Donald Trump. They lost a lawsuit against him. And it was, I think it was 16 million. I don't think it was billion, but it was up there. So they lost that. Melania is suing them for nasty comments. She's suing The View, or she did sue The View for nasty comments. And the Trumps keep winning in court. Put that
Mhm.
on the sideline. Then we have the Paramount deal. And they wanted to make a sweet deal, CBS selling to Paramount, and they wanted to make a sweet deal. And that necessitated that they get along with the current administration. So put that on the back burner. Then Charlie Kirk's assassination. That's not on the back burner yet. People are still just so upset over all of this. And I'll hear more about the ambiance about this because I do live in this area, Charlie Kirk's area, and Saturday we have an event to go to, and his organization was one of the sponsors. So I am sure there's going to be plenty said. Now, put that into the back onto the back shelf. As you know, I was on national television. One of my shows was on NBC. This is how it worked. We did a show ended, we went home. Next day we come out to do another show. But before we start our show, we look at the board to look at the ratings for yesterday's show. Everything in this business is based on ratings.
Mhm.
When you go to work for a company, either you make it in the company, you do what you're supposed to do, the productivity is humming along, or it's not. If it's not, the company can't afford to keep you. Now, where the networks, I do believe, went wrong was that as soon as they saw that the ratings were plummeting all the way down, they should have ended the misery. They should
Right.
have ended the whole thing and said, we can't afford to keep going on. What we in the entertainment business lose sight of is that this is indeed a business. I teach MBA courses. A business is a business. A business is in business to show a profit. So far, we have all seen how the ratings were so bad They were losing millions and millions of dollars. I look at the management of these networks and say, what took you so long? They realized they were bleeding money. It took one comment that wasn't even as incendiary a comment as some people might have thought, but it was a comment that was used as the excuse to end this guy's tenure on late night. Now they're going to have to pay out in the contract or whatever,
Yeah.
unless they get him on the morals clause, because every contract has morals clauses in them. But what people are losing sight of, and the left leaning media is coming out and saying, oh, free speech, this is terrible. Well, he still has free speech. He can go out and do it wherever he wants. The point is that you cannot sustain a business unless it shows a profit. Even the IRS says if it's not showing a profit, it will be deemed a hobby, and that's not tax deductible. So here we are with ratings failures. And you know that the craziest thing is that the ratings are very high for one show in late night, and that's Gutfeld. And that just happens to be on a right-leaning network, and it happens to be on Fox News. What the consumer dictates is what manifests as ratings. The guy didn't have them. Colbert didn't have them. But I'm looking at the leadership. I'm sorry. I teach leadership training. And I do leadership training. And I just don't understand. You say, okay, you're gone, Colbert, you're gone, but you can stay around for another year. What? Usually when a company fires somebody, there's a box and there are the keys, and the person turns in the keys, and the person walks out with his own personal things in a box. They don't give him any time to mess around. What I understand is that Kimmel is now going on Colbert, and they're both going to have a cry fest. That's what I'm hearing. What is the point of any of this? The ratings are the ratings. Who determines the ratings? The people who watch, consume this entertainment medium. And I am telling you, from having been in this world, every time we showed up the next day after a show, we checked that board to be sure that the ratings were top notch, and we did very well. But to be sure that the ratings were top notch. And if they weren't, we walked around very depressed because we did not know what the network would do. I was on one show where the show host was so impossible to get along with, the network just pulled the show off the air after 19 years. Not naming names. Network just pulled the show. There was no fanfare, there was no crying, there was anything. They made the rules, that was it. The ratings weren't being kept up, and therefore, goodbye. How would you operate a business, your business, which is growing and developing and flourishing, but at each piece of those moments, you have had to change, tighten your belt, give more money to something else, look in another direction? I know I talk to you. You are the world's greatest entrepreneur, but you know how to run a business. How come you don't go to ABC, NBC, CBS and tell them what they need to hear?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And the thing is, that's going to them and telling them what works and what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, they aren't going to listen based on who's around them. And it's basically they'd rather look good than have ratings.
Well, those days are over because they can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, but
After
television's dead. That's probably the thing that I think that this is where the time Kimmel probably would not have been fired 5 years ago because television wasn't dead. Television's dead in a way that people don't watch television anymore. They watch streaming. And if the streaming network's not doing well, and I don't think that ABC has the best of the streaming, I think Peacock's better. I think that, Hulu's picking up ABC stuff, but not many people are going to Hulu to listen to watch the
Well, then,
Tonight.
well, how do you account for Greg Gutfeld's show being so popular?
It's a
People,
cable news and it's the age group, and conservatives are mostly older white men. So if you looked at the
I don't know
numbers,
that,
that's
I don't, yeah, but I don't, okay, I personally do not, I have not examined the demos for Gutfeld.
yeah.
But Gutfeld has a rare combination in his presentation. The others are just the same stuff. There's a guy sitting in a chair behind a desk, and there's somebody in front of him, usually a celebrity, talking about his or her new movie or some such thing. But Gutfield's talking about real life situations, and they're political and they're not political, but they're hitting nerves the way we have not seen nerves in late night hit before. And whenever you do something different, you're always taking a chance.
totally.
So the network took a chance on him, and it worked out very, very well. But the leaders who said, "Well, you're fired, but stay here for a year," to Colbert was the worst
No,
leadership in the world.
no.
I mean,
Okay.
who runs a company like that?
So we're gonna find out. No Kimmel or Colbert. If they're smart, they had a following. They go to social media, they create their own news channel like Beck did, and bam, they're rich. Because honestly, but they were paid so highly, they had to go. But if they're already a recognizable name, they could get the young people to watch them. But what they have to do is use that brand to go out and do it, and they're going to sit on their checks instead, at wishing to come back. There you go.
Well, you could look at the best marketer of all time, Donald Trump. Look what he did. He didn't know anything about young guys. He didn't know anything about the media. I mean, the media, he knew everything about the media. He didn't know anything about social media. He knew how to tweet, nasty tweets. That's all he knew.
Yeah, and he totally
Suddenly,
changed. He figured it out.
suddenly he figured it out. He
Okay.
didn't rest on his laurels, and he might have, but he didn't. And I think everybody can take a page from his book about how to do it. But I doubt if these guys will.
Okay. drgilda.com. Appreciate it, Dr. Gilda. And we'll talk
My
soon.
pleasure, Neil.
All right. That was